Good morning and happy Saturday, everybody. Wall Street Jesus here. Saturday sweep series as we head out of the summer. The summer is over, party's over, and we get into the fall here. A lot of interesting things on in the market. There will be more eyeballs on these interesting things as a lot of people come back this week. Uh, even last week, even though it's post Labor Day. The big guys don't get back officially they say anyway, till this week. So there will be a lot more hands and a lot more eyeballs involved, and we'll see how that plays out. But a very interesting week. We'll go over some of the stuff. Kind of a strange market, a lot of rotation under the hood, and I don't even like to use the word rotation because they're not necessarily severely rotating out of things, but they are shifting some money. And this week we saw, late in the week, they took some money out of tech, the high beta stuff, and they went in to the hurricane plays, the big pharma names, some biotech names, and there's been this constant shift. And in my opinion, we spoke about this, I think that is a good thing. Okay, it can frustrate traders, but as far as the overall market's concerned, when you see money shift around like that so drastically, it's going to put a floor in as far as any potential major downside, as long as that persists. Because what happens is, like for example, we saw at the end of the week yesterday, we saw them sell tech right into the weekend. But if the pattern persists, what we're going to see is when they start locking in profits on all the things that took off this week to the upside, they'll probably go back to tech and see an opportunity there for an entry, and maybe even the banks, catch a bid and stuff like that. So, or some of the beaten down stuff because of the hurricane. So that's what constantly has been going on in this market. And then you get pockets of strength where pretty much they take everything higher. So you get that rotational chop, allow the overall market to breathe, and then they come storming into basically everything. And that's where you get that runaway rally for a week or so, and then we run out of gas there. So we'll talk a little bit about what I'm seeing going forward and what may potentially can happen next week, something to keep an eye on. And again, I'll take questions on names and stuff like that as far as action's concerned. All right. Just very quickly, I like to do this initially. This way, any questions, I can take them at the end or through the Q&A. Anything we discuss here, if you're new, you can get information wallstreetjesus.com. Pretty easy web address. All right. You go there. You get an understanding of what we do here. There's a strategy section where there are short blogs on any questions, frequently asked questions of how you can use the stuff we talk about today. Examples of trades, different styles of trading or traders that I've come across throughout my years as far as this intel is concerned. So you go to wallstreetjesus.com, you'll find pretty much all the answers there, okay? And we'll offer pretty simply just a couple packages here. We have, throughout the Saturday Sweep Series, the premium package is everything, okay? And like I said, you could go to the website and see everything you get, but basically the bread and butter of what we do here, you're going to get access to this room. We call it the Steamroom. Okay, it's a chat/trading room. A lot of solid traders in here. Lucci's in here constantly talking about what he's doing off the action. I'm on audio, video throughout the day, so basically sharing commentary and my opinion on some of the order flow that comes in. Okay, and I'm on all day. I'm basically on all day. So. I'm watching the tape all day, so I have no excuse not to be on all day. All right, and with that included, you get access to all these channels here, the market update section, all this stuff. 2 days a week. We do Tuesdays and Thursdays post-market webinars at the end of the trading day. Discuss a little bit of what we saw, game plan, etc. And including in that, you will get access to private Twitter. That's this here, okay? And basically, I'm sharing the flow updates, okay, in real time. So you're going to get all the flow that gets to the Steamroom comes here. So if you're on the go right now, this is probably your best bet as far as mobile is concerned, okay? And I throw in some open interest and sentiment stuff after hours, okay? We also, if you're looking for kind of a trial thing, or you already have a strategy, you just want the flow, that sort of thing, we have spun off private Twitter into its own entity at a more affordable rate. It's about, $59.99, so about $60. You go to the bottom of the Wall Street Jesus page. And what I suggest, I mean, there's a big difference between the two, okay? If you want to get an understanding for the flow, if you want to learn a strategy and tie it together with the flow, if you want to see how other traders are reacting in real time to the flow, that's where the room is special, okay? Again, it's not about stock picks. It's about trying to take this edge and incorporate it into a style that you can make money with and feel comfortable with, okay? Stock picks are kind of useless in my eyes because what may work for me or be actionable for me may not be for you, okay? So I think you got to kind of learn a strategy. If you already have that and you're just looking for the flow, then you could go the private Twitter route. But that's the biggest difference. Again, private Twitter included in the premium package. So that's in addition to the chat room. All right, so wallstreetjesus.com, you guys will find all that there. Now, let's get into the good stuff, the market, and what the hell's going on these days. Again, you guys know I'm a big fan of sentiment, retail sentiment, and how crowds are positioning in the markets, especially the options market. Because, you know, a lot of the excuse me, a lot of the surveys out there, the sentiment surveys, it's easy to say you're bullish, right? It's easy to say you're not worried about a pullback. But it's one thing to put your money where your mouth is. Okay, that's why I'm a big fan of option sentiment, because it's showing the true colors, right? If people are really active as far as putting on protection, put side, that shows you the true emotion. Okay, if people are getting nervous, they're buying puts to open, and they're concerned about a pullback. Okay, and the same thing on the bullish side. It's easy to say, oh, I'm extremely bullish here, but it's one thing to go and load up on the long side and try to capitalize off that. So that's why I'm a big fan of sentiment and option flow in general. Okay, I'm not a big options player. I've traded options, but I trade equity, as a lot of you guys know. I've been an equity guy throughout my whole career. I just feel more comfortable with equity. Again, it's just I've had more success with equity. It's something I feel comfortable with. But still, I'm using options flow and sentiment as a primary indicator in what I do. I base everything I do, anything I touch, is based off that. All right, so that's why, if you're wondering why, you know, I'm a fanatic with this stuff, and I'm really not trading options. So what I was trying to get at is, as far as sentiment's concerned now, you know, we had this pull here where people, you could see here, this is just a simple overall sentiment. People got really bearish into this pullback, okay? We've come out of that nicely. We had a nice little move. This market's taking a little bit of a breather here, all right? But underneath the hood, as we've been in breather mode, there's some things going parabolic out there. I mean, absolutely crazy. And, you know, that's where you have to take the overall market with a grain of salt sometimes. You know, that's another thing, again, not to push my own product, but how flow helps me. Like if I'm looking, and I see it a lot on Twitter and everywhere else, people are saying, "Oh, the market's choppy. There's nothing moving. The banks and tech look awful." But meanwhile, we've been seeing, and if you remember me mentioning, the quality of flow. Okay, there wasn't a lot of it, but the quality of flow has been, ironically, in healthcare, biotech, and pharma. So, and what I mean by quality, the good-looking bets, the sharp, clean bets that I like to look for. Okay, they've all been in those type of names. So when we're looking at the flow on a day-to-day basis and we see patterns like that, a lot of times they could give us a heads up on something that may lie ahead, whether it's major rotation or they're playing something, off some politics out there, whatever it may be. Okay, and we see it in tech, we see it in the financials, we see it in pharma, we'll see it in the gold miners. That's been another hot spot. All right, so that's where the flow can be a huge asset without you even, picking a name off the board or a name that caught buying and trading that specific name. Okay, just basically getting a read on smart money sentiment, and that was telling us that something was cooking in pharma biotech land. Okay, and if you guys remember, I don't know if you follow me on Twitter, this is not just this week. This started up like a couple weeks ago. If you remember, we were talking about that name Fold. Okay, was one of them. And by the way, we'll talk a little bit about Fold and saw some small signs late Friday. But this was one of them. Small biotech name that usually catches some spec type action. Cheap speculation on maybe approval or anything like that. Really saw some quality action down here. Quality. Okay. We spoke a little bit about that Puma, right? What the hell's that symbol again? I keep forgetting that symbol. PB. What the hell's that Puma? I keep getting that symbol wrong. There it is. Got it. We spoke a little bit about this. Remember? That sharp call spread. Like they weren't rolling the dice on some cheap out of the money weeklies. They opened up a size, sharp-looking call spread in a name they've had success in before, quite a few times, and it just told you that, something it may be cooking here. That was right around here, I think. That was a little after the Fold. Okay, and then interestingly enough, what we also saw in the Puma, there was one down day. You could barely see it on this chart, okay, intraday. The stock was down intraday about maybe $2 around there. And what that player did is that second leg of the spread, right? So he sold that second leg. He bought to close those calls. Okay, and by buying to close that second leg of that sharp call spread, he left himself holding now just long that front leg of calls. So if it wasn't bullish already off that sharp call spread, he just told you he don't even want to sell that second leg anymore. He wants to cover that because he's thinking this thing can go. All right, so that's the type of action that we've been seeing. And then, it started to spill over in everything. I mean, from large pharma to small cap, Bristol Myers, was catching ridiculous action. INCY was catching, momentum sweepers. INCY, ABBV, one after the other. I mean, look at this move in this AbbVie. I can't believe my eyes. Look at this move. Gilead, which has been a widowmaker for so long, even with the type of flow it was catching, I still couldn't get myself to believe that Gilead was actually in the midst of a rally. And, look at it now. And again, some of even the smaller stuff, you guys probably saw me talk about this ARRY over the last week or so. Some big blocks in this thing. What was another? There were a couple small ones too. But you get what I'm saying. You know, Abbott Labs. Abbott caught a sweeper. I think it was on this day, but Abbott never sees that type of sweeper activity. Never. You know, maybe a block here and there. Never ever does Abbott Labs come up and I'm saying to myself, wow, that's some aggressive buying in Abbott Labs. So when you see that type of action, you have to take notice. You have to take notice because it's telling you the pros really are looking to aggressively get behind this thing. You know, this rally's for real. This is another one, AZN. This is another name they just knock it out of the park every time they touch. Every time they touch this thing, it's a miserable day trade. I had trouble making any money day trading. It doesn't move much, but as far as swing trade, every time they put their hands on this thing, it's good for at least a trade. This time, no different. You know, they were buying here. You had the gap, and they're still buying. They're still buying. Now, granted, they may be rolling some profits out as well, but the call activity is still hot in this thing. All right, by the way, INCY, we haven't seen any new action. The last batch of action was in December's. And this is another one of those biotechs. They don't play it often, but when they do, yeah, you got to jump all over it. You got to jump all over it. You know, AGN, that caught some action. That actually halted and ran on Friday. That caught some action a couple days prior to that. And I'm probably forgetting, you know, so many others. Okay, but you get my point. So that's what was going on under the hood in this market. While, you know, the average retail trader out there was claiming chop. Okay, the market's just chop. You can't make money in this market. Yeah, so again, when you see it, that's what we look for, and we look to react. You know, I'm a day trader. Okay, I day trade primarily now more than ever, and for me, you know, there was that morning. I think it was, what was it, Wednesday, Thursday? Any sweeper activity that came into any biotech, pharma, healthcare name, I was jumping all over for a trade intraday. That's how hot the action was. So whether you're day trading, you're swing trading, you're a position trader, you know, a trend trader, anything, this stuff can be extremely useful for you if you use it the right way. All right, so that's the story. And again, we saw not only in this group, this was the hottest group, the cleanest group for me, in my opinion anyway, but we saw, you know, hurricane-related action, right? I mean, it makes sense. Home Depot, there was one morning, it was rapid fire Home Depot buying, rapid fire. You know, and Home Depot, prior to that, there were a couple of things moving. Home Depot couldn't get out of its own way here. But, you know, aggressive activity each and every day as this thing pushed higher. You know, I thought this possibly was a hurricane play, this BMS. I don't know if you guys looked at this. I spoke about this on Twitter a couple times. We saw some strange action come in on this day. Okay, it was a Friday afternoon. Whoever, this was, I think, before Labor Day. The Friday before Labor Day, right around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, somebody came in and swept BMS calls. Okay. I was still around. A couple other traders, degenerate diehards like myself in the room, were still around. We day traded it. And not only that, you know, just by me being around and seeing that aggressive activity coming in, as a day trader, this name was on my screen, on my radar, no matter what now. Okay? Because if they come after this again, it tells you that there's something bigger going on. All right? You heard me mention that several times in past webinars. So they came in here, though, you know, had a little push higher, danced around, a little shakeout. Then lo and behold, on this morning, right at the open, not at the open, it was about an hour in, sweeper activity. Okay, I immediately, without even thinking, you know, I played it. A couple of guys played it, and then, you know, there was an explosion in it. There was an absolute explosion in it. So Here's another one. I'm going back to biotech now. I can't believe I forgot this thing. Did you see this NLNK? It caught orders. Here's the thing, too. It was catching buying after the move, in a sense. What I mean by that, in simple English, like there was some unusual small sweeper activity in NLNK, and then there was a breather. Like there was a big move in the stock. A lot of people in the room traded it. It faded. So all of a sudden, everybody's out of it, thinking the move is over. Bigger action came in than the action that came initially. So they hit it again, even harder. It was just incredible action this past week. Let me see if I can pull it up so you guys get a better idea of what I'm talking about. Oops. By the way, this, as long as it stays like this and Twitter doesn't do an update, the search on private Twitter comes in handy. All right, so here's the action NLNK. That doesn't look like all of it, but you could get an idea. September 7th. So they started coming in. Where's that order? Oh, here it is. Okay. So initially there was that small sweeper activity, and that's why I follow that stuff, guys. I'm not looking to pounce on any individual small sweeper I see, but the object of it, the goal is to get my eyes and members' eyes on a name before the heat comes in. And we see it so many times. Here's an example of it. Small sweeper activity prior to this bet coming in. So you had small sweepers come in before somebody decided to buy 2,500 September 13s. September 13s. They were playing the September 10s prior to that sweeping. 30 times normal volume. 30 times normal volume in that NLNK. So it was just a fascinating week. Like I said, from hurricane names to pharma, biotech names, you name it, there was something for you. And gold, by the way, I know a lot of you guys are fascinated with that. Let me pull it up. Interestingly enough, gold itself, the GLD, not really anything special as far as activity. A lot of the size action in GLD has been dated. In other words, further out in the year. Okay, well, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just hard to get a gauge on what may happen over the shorter term. But what they have been coming after in size are the miners. They've been all over these miners. JNUG caught two really big bets for a JNUG. Had a strong move. GDX obviously caught some action. The juniors, GDXJ, saw some really big action. All right, so I'm not the biggest fan of gold, and I like the miners better than gold itself. But I just would like to pick my spots a lot more selective when it comes to trading, these type of commodities. But if you were looking for an entry into these miners, or you want a confirmation from the smart money, you definitely got it. You definitely got it. JNUG, two big bets. I posted it. How do I get out of this thing? I posted it on my personal Twitter. You guys probably seen it. Hold on. I get lost. You gotta excuse me. And it doesn't take much for me to get lost. What happened? Oh, there we go. So, here you had on 831, a little under 22 bucks. This is the JNUG. $500,000, another 100. And then prior to that, on 817, so mid-August, look at the size coming in. Now, these expired, obviously, 9.8. But that was around 18 bucks. So, that had some action as well. All right. That's all fine and dandy. What to look for next week is probably the most important things on everybody's mind right now. What I like is I like tech. And the reason I like tech Now, this is me personally saying I like tech because it has pulled back. Sentiment is really getting washed out there nicely, right? Because it's been underperforming in a sense compared to some of the stuff that took off last week. And if we see sweeper activity confirm that, I think it lines up as a solid play next week. Okay, we may need to see another day of selling. Maybe that comes Monday, because we're not quite there yet. But a lot of the stuff I look at as far as on the sentiment side, even on the price action side, you could see there was some selling in tech on Friday to close the week, and things look good. And there's been some decent moves. Okay, let's be honest. I mean, Netflix, had a decent move here. Everybody's just used to coming out of a base and being at new highs in a straight line. It doesn't always have to work that way. And to be honest with you, it's better if it doesn't, because you can lock up profits, wait for a pullback, wait for another entry, and if it lines up, you got another chance to fire. What I hate is when, similar to what we've been seeing in this market over the recent months, names like Apple, Baba, Facebook are up every damn day. They're up every day. You're lucky if you get an intraday pullback to take advantage of. So when you see stuff, that's been hot, taking a breather, and even better when a lot of that bullish sentiment that was behind it getting washed out, all you need is some sweeper flow behind it to light the match again. And that could happen in the snap of a finger. So, and the reason me personally, I would definitely wait for flow to confirm is because that would tell me that they're still in play. Okay? If they come in and start getting aggressive in Netflix, maybe the semi-names, just tech in general, very similar to what they did in the other stuff this week, that would signal that, it was just a pause. There was some rotation going on in the market, shifting of funds, and these things are ready to rock and roll again. And again, it could be a solid trade there. Do these things explode to new highs and continue going for a month straight? I have no idea. But as far as a trade is concerned, there'll be an opportunity there. So yeah, again, the usuals, the Netflixes, and you got Apple has that that iPhone event, right? So there was a little bit of negative news out there. They used that to sell ahead of the news. They were probably going to sell into the news anyway. That's usually how it works. And, Apple's been strong. So this is a good thing. This is a good thing. You know me. You don't want to chase these things here. I think there's a lot more risk when you're chasing up here, hoping for this grind to continue, because when you get greedy, this is what you get caught in. As opposed to waiting for something like this and just waiting for the flow to confirm that they're still okay with this thing. Interestingly enough, we saw a size put buyer in Apple. But you got an event. It's like earnings. You have an event there. I would just wait on some decent call sweeper activity. Another group, and I know, nobody likes them right now, are the banks. And again, I'm not saying that, I'm not trying to predict where sweepers are going to go, but I'm just giving you the example. These are the things you need to look for and wait on sweepers to confirm that trade, that move, right? So you're using it as an indicator in the sense. The same thing that happened in biotech and pharma. So many times we're waiting on biotech or healthcare sweepers to come and they never show up. But if something, it lines up nice and you're waiting for those sweepers to confirm and they do, that's when you get that solid initial activity for a trade. The banks, Citigroup was a hot name. Had a lot of action at Citigroup and has been a solid performer. She's in some consolidation right now. You know what was so funny though? You remember how bullish everybody was at the top here in Citigroup? You probably seen me retweet on Twitter, Barron's articles, how Citi is a double from here. And, interestingly enough, they always get super bullish up here. And it's only a matter of time before there's some sort of wash to wash out that sentiment. So now you have Citi going from bullish sentiment and approaching bearish sentiment right now amongst retail crowd. Yeah, you get some good-looking action come into some weakness there on a pull. Possible trade there. The Goldman has been quiet. Goldman actually caught a small buyer, but nothing crazy. It was small. Thursday, I think it was Thursday or Friday morning. But, all the banks, Bank of America, Citi I just bring up because Citi has been their favorite. All right, and also as well, you have a lot of stuff that got hit because of the hurricane. Insurance names, the cruise lines. Now, a lot of them bounced back Friday, but, there's been put action there, obviously. People protecting their long positions, looking to capitalize on some short-term downside, that type of thing. But if, you see the flow turn there, that can be another opportunity. I wouldn't, at this point now, there may still be some juice left in the pharma names, the biotech names, and et cetera. But I wouldn't chase there now. You know what I mean? I wouldn't look to get aggressive and chase there now after these moves. Let them relax a little bit. Wait for that rotation like they've been doing. And then once they breathe and people aren't paying much attention again, and that could be just a couple weeks. That doesn't take long. That doesn't take long at all. And again, I'm not saying they can't move higher from here. I wouldn't, just flat out sell them if you're looking to ride them. But, keeping a race stops if you're in the equity, if you're in the calls, roll out, pay yourself a little bit, roll out in time just in case they do pause. Because I will tell you this fold, I think, is something we could keep an eye on over the short term here next week. What happened here in fold, you had some really good-looking Jan call buying, October call buying. That's primarily where all the action was, especially the better-looking activity. There hasn't been anything really since. It's been quiet. And Friday, right before the bell, literally, there was a small, tiny little sweep that probably 99% of you put more money behind a bet than was in this sweep. Okay? But it was a sweeper, and that's the most important thing in my eyes. So it may be a heads up on some further action coming in and maybe something happening next week. Okay? Again, like that BMS, it was in size. Okay? And a lot of people who, watch flow of scanners and screeners and all that stuff definitely didn't pick up on it. But that Friday, late Friday, those small sweepers that came in were really strange looking. I mean, who's sweeping call side in BMS? I don't know about you guys. I never heard of the damn thing. Okay? A Friday before a long weekend Labor Day at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, unless that sweeper's half drunk already, or there was something up his sleeve. And, what happened, like I said, that following week, a couple days later, so it wasn't the next day, but it was a couple days later, you got that confirmation because they came after it again. So that's what you would want to see. Starts off small, but ends up being a tidal wave. All right, so that's what I wanted to share with you guys on the fold, because it's a name we've been talking about, been grinding nicely. I don't know if the calls, I don't really follow the calls. I don't know if the calls move much. But, percentage-wise, Yeah, you're talking about over $1 on this stock from where they started buying it. Got up to almost 14.50. That's almost $2. So that's not a too shabby of a move over the short term. All right, so that's what I wanted to share with you guys. You know, tech could be a decent trade next week. I would definitely keep an eye out for action there. Netflix, there's been, I don't know if they were playing, if the T-Mus news was what they were trying to chase. But if you guys remember me telling you that there was some really unusual sweeper activity and out of the money stuff in Netflix, like they were trying to catch something. I don't know if it was the T-Mus news. Could be. So I would keep an eye on the activity there. You know, that had a nice day last week. I think it was up 4, just like that in one day. It was actually a solid trade. You know, and you got other names that have pulled back, right? Like Amazon. You know, any action into weakness there, you could get a trade out of it. Google has been quiet. You know, just chopping around right now. And so, again, the key is one order can mean anything, okay? You can use one buyer and line it up to something you're looking at on your end and use it as confirmation, right? If Google's at, you know, I don't know what you guys use, the 0.68 Fibonacci, right? And whatever the hell it is, and it catches a sweeper, you can use that as confirmation to what you are seeing on your end. But the name of the game is you want to see that aggressive buying. You want to see that appetite to get long. And that's the best type of activity to get behind. You know, we had a nice trade this past week in Yandex, okay, which a lot of you know, because they've been buying the living shit out of this thing, okay? So, but what happened last week, here's the story in Yandex, if you don't know. They were buying this consolidation. They started buying back here, okay? Rally, quiet. Then they really started to get aggressive here into this consolidation. And it did some of the similar stuff it did prior to this move. Chopped around, rallies, got sold off, that sort of thing. Then all of a sudden there was news on that Uber deal, and you had that huge gap up, okay? Then what they did was they started pushing out and adding to, the key word is adding, everything out to November and January, okay? After this gap here, throughout this whole consolidation and pullback, they started pushing out and adding to November and Jan calls almost every single day, all right? So stock didn't do anything. Had earnings, a little bit of a pullback, bounce back. Make a long story short, we get to right around here, okay? It was actually the day before. And we see sweepers come in, fire missiles on the September 22nd strikes, okay? So what happened now? From buying and pushing out and rolling out everything to November Jan strikes, with a decent amount of time behind them, all of a sudden, on this particular day, they come in and they start aggressively firing missiles at, you know, mid-September strikes. So, yeah, that gives us a heads up that maybe this thing, they feel, is in play now, right? If they were looking November, Jan, and they were buying heavily, and all of a sudden now they're focusing on mid-September, makes sense, right? They think something or a move can start over the short term. Okay, sometimes it may take a couple days, sometimes it may take a couple weeks, sometimes it may never come to move. But more than not, it comes. This one happened to come the following day. This thing just exploded out of nowhere. No news. I think it was actually Deutsche Bank had started coverage on them. So it was a decent analyst report out there. But I don't know if that was the cause of it. You know, they had an analyst meeting, could be. Whatever the reasons, I try not to get wrapped up. If I don't know the reasons, even better. You know, let me find out the reasons after the fact. I'd rather not know the catalyst ahead of time. So, and you know, now this Yandex has exploded. I'm sure she chops around here a little bit, a shakeout here and there, and then, you know, and then we see them continue to buy it, and we turn around in December, and this thing is north of 40. You know, the way they're buying it wouldn't shock me. So yeah, that's the type we look for, the type of stuff we try to focus on. Yeah, so this was a nice trade too. And like I'm saying, the fold maybe the early stages there, right? That's what I'm trying to tie together here. Yeah, that's what we saw in the BMS. That's what we saw in the Yandex. Again, it was a tiny sweep, but maybe the initial signs of fold. Let me show you the order, right? That would make sense. Wouldn't that make sense? Let me show you how small the order was. What am I doing? Oh, I got to go back now. Hold on. Oh, I didn't even post it on here. Hold on. Here it is. This little guy. Look how small that is. I guess peanuts. 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 You know, some riffraff on Twitter try to abuse me for even paying attention to this stuff. But that's the order that caught my eye. Look at the time of it. So, maybe not, but again, why we look at it? To get our eyeballs and pay attention. The whole trick to this game is to be prepared, right? If you're not ready to fire when what you're waiting for to line up, right? When your signals are there, if you're not ready to fire, you're not going to find much success in this game. So it's about being prepared, not firing at everything and anything you see, but being prepared for if it does materialize, you're not caught off guard and you can take advantage. On that note, we'll go over some of the action Friday. There wasn't really any new activity per se, initial activity that got me excited. It was a lot of continuation stuff, you know. Snap caught a doozy, but that's not initial activity. That's the only problem. Good, you know, decent looking sweep, $500,000 sweep, but not initial activity. So what that means in simple English, if you guys are wondering, let me show you. Oh, I could even just tell you rather than show you. But, for example, Snap, just the day prior, the morning prior, caught aggressive activity. You know, so what I mean by initial activity is the first stages of aggressive buying coming in. That's the sweet spot. Why is it the sweet spot? Because you're getting in before the heat comes, right? Before the move happens. Now, for example, if a name catches repeat activity but hasn't appreciated in price, that's okay, even better. But if the move already started, you know, you got to be careful as far as chasing is concerned, especially you guys who play call side. Because what happens constantly, I see it all the time, you buy Snap, you ignored all the Snap sweepers prior, right? Those got ignored. You buy Snap at the highs of the day here, after this move, and you get a little pullback, and now you're panicking. And not only that, you know, you're in weeklies, so you should be panicking. You understand? And you know, traders, they don't like to hear that. Okay, it becomes too complex. I hate to tell you though, if you're trading contracts, especially weekly, shorter duration contracts, it better get complicated because you're not going to find much success just throwing darts at weeklies. Yeah, so I suggest to a lot of members, if that's the way you are, then just stick to initial activity. It's that simple. Just stick to initial activity. If you have to be selective, you have to be selective. You can't just create and start forcing shit because you're obviously not going to find success consistently. So that's the only thing with this snap order. Again, nice looking sweep size wise, but that's not the initial bet there. Micron, we all know, for crying out loud, no initial activity there. Micron last week caught again, doozies. It's amazing the amount of call activity in Micron for God knows how long now. Amazing. These all week, this past week, they were all in the September 29th strikes. And interestingly enough, that catches earnings. I think earnings are the 28th. So caught a lot of these sweepers, and you can see all size behind them. Who knows? Maybe David Tepper himself. I call him the Tepper sweep. No, well, these in the money ones, I call it Tepper sweepers. So, but Micron caught action all week, and she looks okay. I mean, considering the move and all. Let me see. I mean, look at this. Right back. Right back. And remember, again, how many people, again, panicking about the flow, about everything else in Micron? So that's my point. Like, it catches Micron, well, you guys know, right? Especially you guys who have been, a lot of you are members, but guys who have been on this webinar or follow me on Twitter, how long has Micron been catching sweeper activity for it? Feels like ages now. So when you get a little pullback like this, everybody panics, right? There's still sweepers buying the living daylights out of it. But your entry is most important to you because you're picking and choosing what sweep you want to tail. You're picking one sweeper that you want to tail and ignoring all the rest of them. There's a lot of luck in that equation. Win was another one. Remember Win? The same thing. Like people were calling for the death of this thing already. Off a little breather. Look at it now. So, again, the simple answer, there's no simple answer, but if to deal with names like this where it's obvious, right? That's what I keep saying. It's obvious that Micron is catching bullish flow. All right, my grandmother would know. I have no grandmother alive anymore, but my grandmother would know that Micron's catching call buying. I mean, that's how obvious it's been. So there's no real edge in Micron anymore off the flow. The only edge, in my opinion, is when they sell it and you see sweepers supporting it, you can get that bounce trade out of it. Okay, because again, you have the professional side buying that weakness and the riffraff crowd thinking all those call buyers are wrong. So you can get that snapback. But, you got to be careful. You can't go in weeklies. You got to give yourself some time just in case you're a little early and give yourself an opportunity for at least a tradable bounce. Otherwise, again, we mentioned this. You get a pullback like this and you see the activity still there, go out to Jan's. I mean, it's amazing how I can't find a trader that I know. I'm not talking about professional, just traders in general who go out in time anymore. It doesn't even exist. Everything is front month or weeklies. And that's fine if that's your strategy, but you got to limit what you're targeting. You can't just target anything. I saw somebody mention SRPT. Yeah, that's another one. I mean, these things have just been animals, these biotechs. Absolute animals. They had some entry here, too. They hit this thing down. That's what I'm saying. They got started in this thing. Initial activity was down here, right when the move started. All right, let me run through these, and then you guys could throw some symbols at me. Like I said, I mean, there wasn't too much action in a lot of the names you like, but we could go through it. Here's the ARRY. They may roll out some Septembers because they started about a week ago, I think, and they started buying Septembers at lower levels. So it's possible this October 11 call buying could be rolling out some of that. All right. Again, not initial activity. This thing halted. It caught a buyer prior to the halt. You can see here 1203. And then caught a buyer after the halt. What happened was she halted, gapped higher, and then faded off the gap. E-Trade caught a small sweeper. That was a little different name. November 43 calls in E-Trade. 2,300 of them. Anybody interested in this? In these online brokers? E-Trade. Oh, you know what I did? I think Schwab has a conference, some sort of analyst conference next week. So I don't know if it could be related to that. I got to dig. But this is E-Trade. This is what she looks like. Looks like a decent spot. You know, a lot of people probably calling for a breakdown, blah, blah, blah. Personally, I would like to see more than just that sweep, but that's me. But again, I know I sound like a broken record. I want to make the point. See, that's my preference. Like, I trade just off flow, right? So a sweep like that in E-Trade, I want to see them hit it again. Okay, I really do. That's to confirm to me that they like this thing. But you may, already find some success, using technicals. Or, again, I know, again, a buddy of mine, I don't know what the hell he does. He uses Elliott waves. He kills it. He kills it. I still don't know what he does. I still don't know what he does. 5 waves down. I have no idea. But he absolutely kills it. And he's focusing. He goes home every night. He has his list of names by the next morning of potential, setups. And he's looking for a sweeper activity to confirm. So I'll give you an example. If this met a pattern that he looks for as far as Elliott waves are concerned, that sweeper, just that sweeper, would have been confirmation. So you see, for me, I'm just going off flow. I'm waiting for more. For him, he's not waiting for more. He's already got it set up on his end, and he's using that professional sweeper as confirmation. So, that's where a lot of traders find success, like that I know, professional traders. They use it in addition to what they do. The array we spoke about, AbbVie, this is just some of the action. There were so many sweeps like this. I just grabbed a couple of them that were out a little further in time because, there was just too many. But you could there were orders like this in ABBV all day long. All day long on Friday. Thursday, too, they bought it. But you got some Jan 95s. Again, that could be rolling out some profitable positions. Yelp. Have you guys looked at Yelp lately? Have you seen Yelp? Nobody talks about Yelp. What the hell are they selling over there? Look at this. So Yelp was a bit frustrating. Reason being is it caught ridiculous action had a little move higher, got stuck there. You know, they didn't want to pay you another dime after this push. And then you had earnings. So, you know, if you were playing the run-up into earnings, you really didn't get anything special. Then you get this monster gap off earnings, and she hasn't stopped since, just grinding higher almost every day, seemingly. And on Friday, there was a little more activity there. Thursday, there was activity as well in this Yelp. Friday, they were playing November 50s, $1.36, and then Jan 50s for $1.92. So they're still bullish there. Here's a little guy I like the action in on Friday. Again, little. PWR. I guess a smaller name. Some of you may not know it. This could be hurricane kind of related, I guess. You guys probably know better than I do. Let me get a chart up here for you. So this is what PWR looks like. Anybody know this name, by the way? Let me get this thing up so I see what you guys are mumbling about. Hold on. Anybody familiar with this PWR? No? Well, anyway, yeah, so caught some activity on Friday. They hit it up in the morning, and then they hit it again afternoon. Down here, bottom of the list. So where's the morning one? Oh, around noon. October 36 calls. They paid $1.10 initially. Then they swept 650 plus there, 656. Then they swept another 343 for $1.25. So they pay up a bit. And then this guy later in the day sweeps November's. So you got October's and November's. David, thank you. David mentioned PWR has a conference, investor conference, September 19th and 20th. Interesting. There's so many of those damn conferences, huh? I don't remember these things. Is this, maybe now I'm paying more, is this something new? Like, is this fairly new? Or they've been doing this forever, these investor conferences after earnings? How come I don't remember these things like this? Like, literally, these things are intraday earnings. You know, you saw Disney? Did you see Disney last week? Just in the middle of the day. And the scary part about it was I traded Disney 2 days prior to that. All kidding aside, I was in Disney the day before that, and I was in Disney the day before that because there was some action in weeklies. Okay? Now, you know, for me especially, I'm a day trader. Even though the action may not be that big, weekly action I have an interest in because that's telling me, you know, something can happen rather quickly. Now, you're going to see a lot of that type of flow into these things because it's like earnings, right? You remember us talking about how earnings, there's always flow? You know, there's always hedging going on. There's always some small, cheap speculation going on. You really don't want to fool around with that. So now we got to deal with this intraday earnings nonsense. But, you know, if you dig like David did, you got, you know, where you can gather up this info. So PWR has a conference September 19th and 20th. Now, it could also be a good thing. You know, it happens both ways. You just got to be prepared for it. But sometimes they do run up. A lot of times they run up prior to that. So we'll see flow. You get a run up. You know, it may not be anything huge, but you get some appreciation. And then it's probably prudent to take off some risk, you know, into the event, as always. All right, so the PWR had some action. Did I just change the screen? Where's that Apple? Here's the Apple action. So again, I don't know, you know, what this is all about. Could be a million different things. And the reason why it's not too significant is because you have an event there. You know, you have an event. So is it telling? I mean, I would need to see them get more aggressive and continue to come after it, but by that point it may be too late, you know. So I basically, what are you saying, Napor? How to search Twitter alert? I'll show you that. I'll show you that. All right, so let me get to a couple questions you guys have. THC, that's been another name, has had some decent action. That's not initial activity, but it's off a pullback. Here's what THC looks like. They started buying here. I don't know if you guys remember. It was on a Friday. There wasn't a lot of action. They swept November's. I think that's the reason why I remember it so vividly. There wasn't a lot of sweeper action that day. That was here, I think. Then you had a nice push with more action after that. And now you got some action into this little pullback, little breather here. So not initial activity in this THC, but some repeat buying. And that's the order there. September 17s. Nothing huge. All right, let me get to a couple of questions, a couple of your statements here, and see what the hell's going on. Napur is asking how to do a Twitter search. I don't know. Are you a member, Napur? If you are, you go to search right here. See that? And basically, you type in what you're looking to search. So if you are a member of the Steamroom and you want to search the activity in NLNK, right? You'll type in the Twitter handle at, you know, whatever Twitter handle you're searching. So this would be SL Steamroom, and then NLNK. I left the $ off because it was adding confusion. So I never put a $ now on the private Twitter. So this way you could pick up any comments on the NLNK, and that's how you do it. You know, so let's see. ABBV, see? And you get all the ABBV. Now, the thing is, Napar, I just want to mention to you, because if they fool around with it from time to time, sometimes you could go back pretty far. Sometimes you could only go back a couple days. It seems like I heard that every time Twitter does an update, it's something different on protective accounts. So I guess it's hit or miss at times as far as how you can go back. Leonard is saying you just duplicated that and you get 0. Are you a member, Leonard? You're a member? Yeah. So type in, did you put the @SL Steamroom before the symbol? Yeah, that's weird. What are you on? Wow, that's weird. Never heard of that. I'll take a look, Leonard. If you know what you could do too, hit up Seth at Sanglucci. Seth might know, because Seth he got a lot of questions from members on it, and he can't figure it out either. Oh my God, I don't understand. I never heard that before from anybody. That's weird, Leonard. I don't know. How about on mobile, on the app? Ani's saying he has the app. I could do it too. I mean, Annie's saying he has an issue with that too. Now, explain to me how some people would have an issue and some don't. How's that make any sense? Crazy. Try it on the app, guys. I use it a lot on the app. So let me ask you a question, though. If you go to my Wall Street Jesus account, you can search that. So it's only the private account that won't let you, the protective account, or it's all Twitter accounts. That would drive me nuts. You know what I mean? Yeah, of course, it's the private that you want. That would drive me nuts. I don't blame you for being frustrated. Yeah, so I mean, look, that's all I would do at SL Steamroom. So let's say, like, let's say I wanted to look at my personal account, right? My personal Twitter account. So I would go at Wall Street Jesus, and let me hear what symbol, BMS. Let's see. And look, so that's my personal account. No. You know what? You know why I know? Oh, you're saying private. That's so weird, man. Wait, private doesn't. So you never were able to do. I gotta look at that. If I figure out what the hell's going on, I'll post something on my personal Twitter. But I'll get on it. I'll start digging for you guys because I didn't know that. Because I know some people who use it and that's weird. But I'll get on that for you guys. All right, because that's a pain in the ass. Yeah, I know that there's always been an issue with the Twitter search. It's like I said, sometimes you could go back further. Sometimes it was only that day. It's been a variety of things. And I was told that Twitter did an update and protective accounts. You can only go back so far. I don't know, but I'll try to figure that out if it's even possible. And that's the best part of Twitter, Leonard saying he tried it on mobile and it doesn't work either. That's really weird. Because I don't follow the Steamroom account, but maybe because I'm on it here. But I'm trying to think if I do it for my Wall Street Jesus, can I find? I'll figure it out. I'll get on it for you guys and I'll figure it out if it's even possible. What else? See, somebody mentioned that they can't do it on desktop, but can do it on the app. How? I don't understand that. I really don't. All right. What else do we got here? But yeah, I promise I'm not brushing you guys off. I'll try to see if I can figure out what the hell the reason is behind that. Sandeep is saying, your Elliott Wave friend you mentioned, could you share his Twitter handle or anything else? I wanted to be a little more vocal in the room, and I can't even get him to do that. But he's not active on Twitter. He's a professional trader, So he's not. He doesn't have a service or a website. He trades for a living with a team, and that's basically all he does. David saying Lulu September 70 calls huge. Yeah, there was one buyer. They're cheap though. It's only like a $50,000 bet. But yeah, there was big volume contracts wise in that Lulu. There was also a big put buyer, by the way. Oh, it was tied to stock though. It was tied to stock. Oh, you know what's another name too? Keep an eye on. But they had Chatter, didn't they? This KSS had some clever sweepers last week, and then caught that Amazon news. Chatter, or whatever it is. This is Kohl's. So you had a couple sweeps, September 43s, September 41 calls. You can see all small little sweepers. They added up to a decent amount. 1,600 September 43 calls and 1,000 plus September 41s. It was down Friday, so that's good. Off a nice ramp. But yeah, keep an eye on it, chatter-wise. What else we got? Even SRPT was getting action before the... Yeah, SRPT was a nice one. Ani, who's here, he's a member. He nails that stock. And he salivates when he sees flow in it. I'll tell you that much. He loves it to begin with, let alone when she catches flow. What other names? I might have skipped over you because we were talking about the Twitter search. I will get on it. Twitter's run by a bunch of pot smokers. What's the deal with Abbott September calls? They got a little bump yesterday. It was in the September 51s, but I didn't want to wait until next week, so I bailed on them. Yeah, Brent, I don't... Again, as far as the options are concerned, I don't really follow the actual option because I'm looking at the equity, okay? And, you know, I guess that it's going to happen often, right? You don't get a big move, and sometimes the calls haven't appreciated yet. But this Abbott looks incredible to me. You know, I mean, this is not some big mover, but either was, you know, Bristol Myers and all the other names that were going nuts. ABBV exploded. So, you know, this Abbott caught some legit action. You know, and listen, that's where, again, you have to have a plan in how to play these things, okay? Because if I'm not looking at this action in almost like a mirror image perspective, I wouldn't advise you to do it. See, when I see that action in Abbott, sometimes I forget what they even bought, but because to me, it tells me, okay, this tells me that there's a higher probability of strong upward momentum coming into this name than there was prior to that action coming in. That's the edge in sweeper activity. Okay? The edge is not mirroring each and every alert. There's no edge there. Trust me. The edge of the sweeper activity is that it tilts the odds, listen, right, up and down. A stock has a shot to go 50-50 each in direction. If with sweeper activity, those odds are bumped up to 65-35 or 60-40, that's your edge. So, and I think that's how you have to start looking at all this stuff if you're looking to find success. You know, I'm not saying you're not doing that. You know, what you did is totally fine. I'm not saying, I'm just giving that example. Like, a lot of times, I hear that from people, you know, where, I give you a good example, JNUG, okay? JNUG caught activity, and a couple of guys in the room played that same exact line. JNUG had a good 2 days, okay? I forget where it was. It had to be, oh, it was probably here then, right? Probably, I don't know. But JNUG had a good couple days, and the calls didn't really appreciate. Okay, so the next day, JNUG had a little pullback, and they got out of it. Because, you know, now the pullback, they're going to lose money. If the underlying is going higher and you can't make money, now there's a pullback, of course you're concerned. And now they missed this move. You know what I mean? So my best advice to you would be, when you see sweeper activity or you hear me say that there's something sneaky or something special going on within the action in the name, that's how I would interpret it. Okay? Now, again, the odds just went up that there's going to be some decent momentum in this name. How can I capitalize off that? What's the best way for me to capitalize off that? You know, maybe it is, listen, I'm going to roll the dice in some weeklies. I'm going to take a small shot. I'm willing to risk what I'm putting in, and that's my stop loss. You know, because I think that momentum is going to come now based on that action, and that's all I'm interested in. Or, I like this setup in Abbott, longer term. So I know they played the Septembers, but me as a position player, I'm going to go out and play Octobers, Novembers, because I think this could be the start of the move, and it has a lot more to go. But that's the way you got to start looking at this stuff. I know a lot of members, a lot of guys, a lot of you guys that come on this webinar are used to, especially people on Twitter or just unusual option activity guys out there who do it a lot different. And I get lumped up into that pile constantly. I've been there, done that. I tried it. I couldn't find any success, consistency doing it. It was a long time ago, but I was pretty convinced that I wasn't going to make any money doing it that way. But, again, I discovered something else in how to utilize the flow in a different manner. And that's the way I look at things, even as a day trader, okay? And think about it. Just think about the way I'm trading off this. It should tell you a lot about how I interpret the flow. Anything I decide to pull the trigger on is an answer to a question. Can that action create enough momentum for me to get a trade out of this thing intraday? If the answer is yes, that's it. You know what I mean? There's nothing more to it than that. And it tells you a lot about how, I interpret and how I look at this order flow. Like I said, the BMS, the initial activity there, 9.5 out of 10 guys out there who look at unusual activity don't even know that exists. They're looking for the big order. Did you see that big size in IBM Friday? Something's cooking. That's not me. Me is, did you see that little sneaky bastard in IBM Friday? Something's cooking. You know what I mean? So it's different. It's different. But yeah, don't take it personal. Don't get, if you're frustrated, whatever. That happens a lot to a lot of option traders. It's part of the gig. It's part of the gig. And think about it. A lot of players trade options and aren't even looking at implied volatility, aren't looking at any of that stuff. And that is more important than anything else. Because like you're pointing out, sometimes you'll get appreciation in the underlying and you will lose money on your calls. And for me, that would be the most frustrating thing. And I can't allow that to happen to me. And I'm not prepared for it. I'm not okay with it because that will frustrate you and get you into bad habits. Ani's saying Twitter search instead of Wall Street Jesus Apple. If you put Wall Street Jesus Apple, you will get only your tweets. Quiet. What? If you do from Wall Street Jesus Apple. Oh, wait. I get only my tweets anyway with Wall Street Jesus Apple. Nathan is asking about Xilinx. Xilinx had a decent December buyer. Had some small weeklies. Was it okay day trade? Nothing crazy. Small weeklies. And the better looking order was in December's. Let me see. I can get that for you off the thing. Hold on. Why does this thing doesn't load up? It could be this computer's a disaster. Hold on a second. Xilinx. Yeah, it was December's was the last bet. Wasn't tied. Some of the action was tied prior. Here it is. I posted it on Twitter too, I think. December 65 calls, 800 grand, a block. Prior to that, small stuff, And you could see nothing really recent in Xilinx. Last round of action was back in April. So, something to keep an eye on. And here's the thing, guys, too. We're in September, right? We're in the middle of September. The good thing, knock on wood, it's been a little more volatile, choppy, scary politics, nonsense, nuclear world war, hurricanes wiping out the country, market don't care. But we're going to get soon into that seasonality where the institutions look to own these semis in tech. And that could be really interesting if there's a breather prior to that, I got a couple of cool things I look at as far as NASDAQ sentiment. You've probably seen me post it on Twitter. I like the look of one of them I just saw this morning. I'll post it after the webinar, so take a peek on my personal Twitter. That's just for NASDAQ. Because again, SPY, SPX has been a rock. I mean, look at this thing. Yeah, SPX has been, I'm not a big line drawer, but pretty clean cut, right? And so, the key is, unless you're really active, you remember the playbook, you look to buy the flushes. In other words, so here's how I look at it. You get a sell-off, or you get some weakness, like Friday, okay? You have some sweeper activity come into a name that you like. That's where you're looking for an entry. You're not looking for the entry when the stock is up. You're not looking to buy Netflix up 4. You don't want to do that. What else we got going on? Let's see. Yeah, so you got Xilinx December action, and I would definitely keep an eye on some further activity there. Because look at Xilinx. See what I like about this? It has done nothing here, right? Now, I want to see sweepers, Dave. That's the thing. Yeah, there's a recording of this whole session. You're going to get it emailed, Nathan, and you go to I think it's on the Sang Lucci YouTube. It gets posted there. I'll post it on my Twitter as well. All right, Lucci posts it, and he'll shoot it out, and then I'll retweet it out. Oop, what'd I do? What other name? Hold on, I just saw a name, and Timus. Timus is another name. Catches a lot of action, Ani. A lot of action. I'm a big Timus fan too. A lot of bullish action in Timus. The problem is, it's just too much. It's too much. So you need that rapid fire activity. You know what I mean? Where they really come after it. That's what you need in Timus to get excited. It's been a while for that. It's been a while. Now it's been more blocks and stuff like that. You really want to see them giddy. That rapid fire Uzi type activity. It's had it before. I remember it's been a while, but this rally here, they were May calls, so it was prior to that. Let me see. Yeah, so this is May, and this move here, they were going bananas, absolutely bananas on, what were they, May 55s, May 60s at the time, but it's been very sporadic since. Oh God, Randy's asking AAL. These airlines are tough, Randy. They're tough. They're tough. I guess here's where you want to start looking, right? So you have the right idea rather than up here. But airlines are always tough, brother. And the reason why is they always are going to have activity, especially AAL. Delta, always active. And their size. They can catch size. But similar to TMUS, but especially for this name, because at least TMUS has found success. This is tough. There's a lot of hands in this name. You know what I mean? A lot of funds, institutions. It's a major name, tranny. It's tough. So, but I would need to see a couple of good-looking orders before I get excited. I remember like UAL, for example, had a good-looking order, okay? Had a little rally and then just got run over. So if you didn't flip it, I think it was a couple of days, a week, or something like that, you got caught. So, some groups are tough. And there's been a lot of that. Like, I'll give you an example. Energy, let's be honest. Energy has been atrocious, right? A lot of smart money got run over in energy. I'd be the first to admit it. It's been a tough trade. I mean, it happens. The Amazon stuff, anything that Amazon has got involved in, the selling there, it boggles my mind how vicious and how much selling comes into those names off that Amazon news. Now, I get the reason, but example, SFM. It's found the bottom here, okay? But for the amount of activity that's come in here, this SFM should have moved. And it may still move, but it just goes to show you how deep this selling is. And when you see that, you try not to be a hero. It's enticing. Like, you want to go against the grain and stuff like that. But there's easier trades out there. You know what I mean? There's easier stuff out there. So it's the type of thing, like I said, even with energy, you put in what you're willing to lose and make sure you go out in time, because otherwise you have to get lucky, and it's not easy. Like, look at Ulta too, right? I mean, Costco didn't catch much action. Ulta, same thing. I think the buying came in here on this day. You had this little lift. You could have traded it, but if you were looking for anything more than that, you got run over. You got absolutely run over. So, like I said, it's just all part of your game plan. It's okay to trade these things. If decent action comes into selling, it's okay to get in if you're looking to, catch that change in direction over the short term. But if you're looking for more than that, I would make sure I give myself a lot of time. Because just in case you're early, maybe you get lucky, they continue to buy, and then you get a lift a couple months down the line where you got a shot. But if you're looking for that strong bounce over a short amount of time, you're looking to have your cake and eat it too, and that's not an easy trade. So, but the AAL is tough. The AAL is tough. I haven't seen much of anything impressive. I guess that's what you were trying to ask, but I haven't seen anything that's gotten me excited there. There was AAL, there was some flow. Delta had some flow. JetBlue had some flow. I think it was last week, but nothing exceptional. What else? Any names I skip over? Let me scan one more time before we call it the day. I think I got all you guys, right? Any other names? Nothing? Netflix, yeah, Netflix, Ani, I mentioned earlier, I would look, as you know, Ani, we missed that day trade, $4 inside, what was it, 30 minutes? Oh, boy, but I would look for Netflix sweepers here, without a doubt, now, off that pull Friday for a trade. JD has been on the quiet side, JD. Post since earnings. And that's not a bad thing, because JD, was another one of those names, if you remember, caught initial activity, took off, right? It was back here, the initial activity somewhere. Took off, and there was activity throughout this whole move, and then ran into earnings, come down now. Now you want this thing to hang out here, chop around, and then look for that aggressive activity to pick up again. That's basically the blueprint right there. It's been quiet. Okay, a lot of buying here. Quiet. Could be just a normal breather, profit-taking consolidation. And the longer that goes on, the better. And then once you see an uptick in activity there where they get aggressive like they did this whole trip up, that would be your spot. And again, I'm not trying to sound like a Monday morning quarterback, but again, if you remember me mentioning, that's why I'm not a big fan of trading up here or tailing activity up here. I'm not a big fan, no matter what the size may be, of trying to make a playoff action off a move like this up here. There may be a little more, but once the music stops, and eventually the music stops, you're going to have to deal with this, and this can go on. Especially off a big move like this can go on for a bit. So wait. If it goes higher, you spit on it. There's a million different stocks out there. It's not one stock. Eventually, you will get an opportunity again. May go higher first, but eventually you'll get an opportunity where they wash out all that grind, and then that's where you start paying attention. So now is where you would start paying attention for JD sweeps. Deere caught some action recently. Yeah, Deere caught some action recently. Had a nice day Friday, right? Yeah, Friday. So Deere caught a couple big bets. Where was it? And same thing with Deere, by the way. Post-election, the size that came into Deere was jaw-dropping. Jaw-dropping size. Had a powerful move. And then, like everything else, ran out of gas, has come down, retraced, trying to form a bottom here, and there's been some action here. So basically, let me see if I can pull them up. You have here. So see, June was the last round of action. May, you could go back. Look at the size in Deere earlier in the year. Look at this. $2 million, $2 million, $2 million sweeper. It's huge. Okay? Then eventually, June, that was the last trade, right? Now you roll into September, all of a sudden, Deere's catching action again. Now this guy is small sweep. He may even have flipped already. The following day, caught some size, December 115. Now these are out there a bit, but some decent looking action there. So that's the story in Deere. Microsoft has been quiet. Microsoft has been quiet. Small stuff here and there. Nothing. Microsoft could catch some nice action. And Microsoft has held its own. Look good. But small action. Microsoft had some really nice flow. I think it was off this pullback. Yeah, I think it was off that pullback. But it has been quiet. Again, there's flow, but nothing substantial from Microsoft. Aggressive, I should say. KR, somebody mentioned. KR is a name. It's almost at the point that I don't even pay attention to it anymore. Honestly. It catches call buying based off chatter. It catches put buying all over the place. It's too sloppy for me. So KR is nothing. I would need that name to go quiet for quite a bit. Or, something special for a quick trade. So in other words, if KR, I don't want you to get the wrong impression. If all of a sudden I come in Monday morning and KR sweepers are going bananas, it's probably worth getting in the middle of. But from what I've seen, so far in KR, with the recent action, Not something I'm even eyeing. The person saying, if you are in live WallStreetJesus.com login, you can go from tweet activity, from log. You lost me there. So in other words, if you're in the chat, are you talking about this? This is a filter. So basically, you're getting everything I post instead of, because you got traders sharing what they're doing throughout the day. You know what I mean? So it can get messy. A lot of people like to run their mouth over there. So this filter is a pop-up that basically anything that I post, the flow during market hours is all here. See? Commentary, AZN. What action in that AZN, boy? Here's that little Goldman sweeper, but a little guy. KSS. So that's basically what you get in the filter here. And then you could search any of the activity in here. You could search any of the activity that hits the board. So some of the stuff I post manually, we didn't. We're working on that. We're getting pretty close to that actually, where you can search that. But this search here basically is everything, all the orders that hit the board, you can hit up in the search. So if you want to come in and see ARRY, right, and you want to see the activity in ARRY, here it is. You type in ARRY, and here comes the activity. These are blocks, and the lightning bolts are sweeps. Then you got this heat map down here. Tells you where the action is. You know what I mean? So you could go to technology. I'll tell you what names in tech, bullish and bearish, healthcare. Merck, ABBV, Fold, AZN, ARRY, Lilly. So giving you a quick synopsis. People, honestly, they don't even use this heat map as much as they should. So, Young is asking any specifics as far as retail sentiment. Basically, I'll show you what we've looked like. So, down here, if you remember, I don't know if you remember, I think that was it 2 webinars ago, whatever the case, you had retail sentiment at a bearish extreme. Okay, so that meant retail crowd was active on the put side, protecting, nervous, betting on downside. So that would indicate if you were looking to get long, you should start looking. Then we had this quick move, and retail sentiment got hot here. So the market actually pushed even further as retail sentiment got too hot on the call side. But as you can see, what usually happens is, even if we push higher, it'll wash out those bulls and then readjust. So right now, we're a bit under neutral. We're not at any extreme yet, but closer to retail bearish than bullish. So retail bearish would be bullish for us. And basically, if you're asking what is it a measure on, it's a measure on retail type of opening activity in the options market. So small lots, non-sweeps, opening activity. Sort of like it's a put the call with a little more specifics. We look at all the put the call stuff too. But yeah, so let's say next week we get a little weakness. We get, as we call it, the squeezometer, because when we get a green squeezometer, there's a high probability that they're going to squeeze the retail bears, right? So we kind of get excited when we get a green squeezometer. That means retail is positioning at a bearish extreme, and there's a higher probability of a squeeze coming. That's basically, in simple English, what it means. You know, it's not a crystal ball. It's not buy-sell signals. It's just, again, probability and odds. That's what makes up this whole game. If you're going to find any success, that's the way you got to look at this game. And the odds or the probability of a squeeze are a lot higher when everybody is bearish, right? Makes sense. So that's, but you know, it's good you asked that, because even the question prior to that, we're saying, I mean, that's basically, you know, the way to look at everything we look at. Just in simple English, it's a higher probability of, you know, sweepers indicate, you know, call sweepers indicate a higher probability of upward momentum coming into that underlying. The more sweepers, right, the more aggressive the sweeper activity, the higher the probability of momentum. And the sentiment indicator, same thing. The more retail put buying that goes on, the higher the probability of the market squeezing those shorts, those put buyers. So the problem is, because if you look at it, and I think that's what a lot of traders, why, the question is, why don't more traders look at this stuff, right? I mean, that should be a question on your minds. And I think the biggest problem is that they are looking at the exacts. You understand? They look at they're looking at, like, there's no flaw in it. And you can't look at it that way. You know, just because a name catches sweeper activity doesn't mean that upward momentum runs out of steam and that name heads lower. All right? Just because a name caught sweeper activity doesn't mean that, God forbid, a terrorist attack goes off, the market sells off hard, that name's going to sell off hard with it. And the same thing with the put the calls and the other stuff we look at. You know, traders look for exacts. You know, they look for, like, the crystal ball. They chase unicorns. And I think that's why a lot of traders brush off this stuff. Like, I know a lot of traders that brush off the put the call because sometimes the put the call may be early. So in other words, you get a put the call signal here, right? And if the market doesn't bounce right there, that put the call doesn't work. You know, and then the market goes lower the next day. See, I told you that put the call doesn't work. And then a little lower the next day. Don't ever show me that put the call over again. And then meanwhile, before you know it, the squeeze comes, they forgot that there was a put the call signal. So I think, you know, honestly, I see with my own eyes. That's why a lot of traders brush off, you know, all this stuff. You know, obviously you could tell I believe in it, and I see it in the room with the flow, guys. I see it all the time. Members come in, you know, they sign up new. They come in, and you see how I look at it, though, right? That's why I try to explain to you. You see how I look at the Yondang flow, and I put the pieces together, right, for that short-term trade. You see how I put the biotech flow, the pharma flow together, and how that could set up a trade in that group. You see how even fold, I'm trying to put the pieces together for a potential trade next week over the short term. So, you know, I mean, that's the approach, not come in and look at the board. And a lot of people do this, and they say, and I mean, they're not even paying attention to my commentary. That's first off. But then I'll look at, this KR put, let's say, January puts, and I'll be like, oh shit, KR put, that's a big order. I'm going to tail that. And randomly just throw darts at some big orders they see, and they think they can make money. Like, look at Lulu right here, okay? Now, on Friday, people were talking about the big Lulu call buying. And then some people are talking about the big Lulu put buying. So you could see somebody's going to get it wrong, right? But there's other stuff to it. There's other pieces to the puzzle. Like, first of all, this put buyer was tied to stock, which 9 out of 10 people don't even know. So there's a story. Each and every day we come in, there's a story in this flow. And if the story lines up with something you think is an opportunity to make money, that's what you're looking to do. One order can mean anything. Leonard saying tried it on Internet Explorer. No, it's not the browser, Leonard. That's not the browser. It's not the browser. Yeah, see, I know Lucci was bitching and complaining about it too. It was frustrating him. I remember that a while ago. Seth was like Inspector Gadget trying to figure out what the hell was going on. It's got everybody puzzled. I'll try to ask around though and see. Put the call basically is a basic put the call. You got the total put the call and you got an equity put the call. You know what? I'm trying to think of that site. It's got some free stuff on it. I can't think of it. Nah, I can't think of it. Let me see. Do I have it on my phone? 1 second. Bear with me. Let me see. There's a site you could get a lot of that stuff for free. Oh, hold on. Is it Index? No. It was something like Index Indicators or Index Market. Let me see. Now, I don't know. I can't find it. But you can find a put the call anywhere. This one was a pretty cool one. If I find it, I'll post it. The simple, like the total put the call, when you see total put the call, that's just a volume ratio. Total put volume versus total call volume. And then you'll see an equity put the call. That's just equities. Right? Then you see an index put the call. There's a put the call on everything. There's a put the call on individual names. So, that's pretty broad, right? It's just volume. And but again, at extremes can work well. We try to, I try to narrow it down and get a little more specific because we use it a lot more than you would use just a plain vanilla put the call. We're using it for short-term trades, intraday trades. You know what I mean? So, but the put the call is just a volume ratio in the options market. Have a good weekend, Ani. All right, guys. So I got a little homework to do. I'm going to try to get to the bottom of that private Twitter and see what the hell their problem is. They're a pain in the ass. And what else? Oh, I was going to maybe if I could find that site, I'll post it on my personal Twitter too. You get the put the calls, you get the McClellan, all that stuff on there for free. But it's a pretty cool look. I'm trying to think of the name. I can't think of the name. I used to go on there all the time back in the day. All right. But yeah, so the week, again, I'm looking at the flow, but we come in pretty decent as far as setup is concerned into weakness. That's the key, If there's some weakness next week, especially in tech, and we see some flow come in, I think that could be an opportunity. There'll definitely be opportunity in individual names like we saw BMS, the biotechs, the healthcare. There'll be individual names no matter what. Keep an eye on that fold. I'll try to shoot on, if you're not members, I'll try to shoot out there as best I can on my personal Twitter. I'll give you guys a heads up on that if we see anything. But yeah, and if you have any questions or want to give it a shot, it's wallstreetjesus.com. Like I said, take a peek. If you guys are bored, it's raining, hurricanes, or whatever, go to the strategy section, and you can learn a lot about what the hell we do over here. Like sweeps. If you're not too familiar, you can get a little information there. How to use the information. Should you care if the bet is a bet or a hedge? Why stock picks really don't work. How to use flow for just sentiment purposes and not stock selection. Looking for big moves. There's a bunch of stuff here. What we started doing is, for you day traders, a couple of day trades. We're going to start doing more than this. Winners and losers. So you can get an idea of what my losers look like as well. We just did a couple of them. We just started here, the AMD and the Netflix, but we're going to do more of that. All right. And like I said, if you're interested in signing up, it's half off the first month, and then $225 after that. You get everything there. If you're looking to get a feel, or the price is just too steep for you, you can't afford it, it's understandable, whatever the case. Private Twitter is $60, and you get a lot of the flow. Again, you're not going to get the audio, video, and a lot of the stuff that really is quite useful, but you'll get an idea for the flow. And at the bottom here, you can make it rain if you want. See? There you go. All right. I left you off on that note. All right, guys. If you're in some danger zone there, stay safe, okay? Be careful out there. Don't be a hero. Take it nice and easy. And I will talk with you guys next week. Thanks for coming around.